Kasper, can you tell the audience about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Kasper. I'm in sunny Copenhagen, Denmark, Scandinavia, up north. So even though it's actually 9 o'clock in the evening, the sun is still up here, which is amazing in the summer. In the
Yeah,
winter, it's in the
I can
winter
see
it's
the
all dark
sun.
and gray. Yeah,
That's
um,
crazy. It's really that late where you are right now?
yeah. So yeah, it's 9 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah, for anyone who's listening and not watching, it looks like noon
It
through
feels
his
like noon.
windows.
So, I mean, it doesn't get this sunny at all during winter. So we have to go out and experience now. So, and my brother-in-law, who's from New Mexico in the U.S., he gets crazy when he's here because he can't sleep.
I
The
bet
sun is
it's
up all the time. So,
yeah, that has to be weird. So for reference, I am in the Chicago area. So we also have to take advantage of summer while we can.
yeah.
All summer or all weekend, it was 80 and sunny, and right now there's a huge thunderstorm. It's
Oh, yeah,
suddenly shifted seasons completely, but that's how we roll here in Chi-town.
yeah.
So
Oh,
today we're talking about how to market within a budget, and we're digging in deep on how to like the least expensive ways to get your brand out in front of people and how to integrate strategic support. But before we do all that, tell me about your business and who you
yeah.
are.
So I actually I wouldn't say I run it because I don't. A lot of other people run the business, but we are a small company of 87 people who run in-house agencies. So we build agencies within bigger corporations. But I also been part of a lot of other stuff. I was the head of creative at Maersk, which is a big logistics and shipping companies that most people know of. And I used to work at George Jensen, which is a jewelry company. And before that, I was in advertising agencies for decades. It felt like that at least.
So
But
you
I also
loved
been
it.
part of small startups where we didn't have any money at all. Actually, a US-based one called Data Classroom, which is basically a tool that helps teachers teach science and data and so on. And when we started, we built the platform. I didn't do the Dan,
Someone did.
the programmer Dan. He did it. He's from the UK, and then Aaron, the founder, he's actually from the US and he lives there. And I was just helping with the marketing stuff in the beginning. So we were like us three building it up, and we didn't have any money, or the money we had was our own money that we spent. So that taught us a lot about coming from big companies and have a lot of other monies to spend, but then have to actually think, is this is a great idea, but is it like $100 great idea for social media? No, I don't think so. And then all the things that I used to preach clients saying, oh, have a bit of God, and don't make the logo smaller, people will find you, all that things that just flips around when it's your own money and you start have to do it for yourself. So I think, I mean, I tell that to everyone I know. Just do something, a side project, and start spending your own money. That way, you really learn a lot about how to do this. So yes,
Yes.
so that's kind of what I do now. I build these in-house agencies and help companies take in resources and build their own stuff, even tiny companies that just need, maybe it's themselves, maybe it's the founder doing the marketing themselves, then I try to help out on how to do marketing, how to yourself within, so you don't have to go to the big expensive agencies or every time.
Yeah. Me and you, we work with the same people with the same aim. Like, let's get scrappy and let's get the most visibility and authority we can within the budget that we have, not extending beyond our means and getting uncomfortable because all of marketing is a test. So you don't, when it's your money, you realize, oh, yeah, is it $100 test or not?
Yeah. But the other thing is, it's really dangerous to play it safe. So if you don't risk something, I mean, there's a quote, and I can't remember who said it, so I stole it like a billion years ago. Who said you can't bore people to buy stuff, or to take an interest in you. So you have to do something that's interesting. Maybe it's telling stories, or maybe it's doing crazy ads, or something like that, that actually makes people interested in what you're doing, instead of just doing something that looks like advertising. Because I think that's actually the most dangerous thing you can do.
Well, you don't want to look like everybody else for sure. What kind of small businesses are you working with? Because I feel like there's a very big difference between product marketing and service marketing.
So I think the smallest one is data classroom. That's our, and that's kind of our own, but we also have small companies with 10, 15 people. But the data classroom, we were 3 people when we started out. I have an advantage because I grew up as an commercial artist, so I did a lot of storyboards. I can draw stuff. So we decided on doing a lot of illustrations, and that's how we built our tone of voice in or visual
That's
style.
fun. And it ties into who you are.
Yeah.
So it feels more authentic to the end user seeing how you're
Yeah.
marketing.
But in reality, it was because we didn't have the money to spend on photos, and then we said, okay, let's draw it. But that's 5 or 6 years ago. Today, we actually use a lot of AI to help. I still draw on top of it, but sometimes I need a bit of help to actually generate these things. So that's a huge advantage now, that we can, type in something and you get an illustration back or a photo back that you can use.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you use Midjourney for that?
Yeah, I tried all the others, and the thing with Midjourney is the security stuff, but when you do something on top of it and all that, and the whole compliance. So, and if you're a big company, we always say, oh, you can't use Midjourney. But for smaller companies, the risk versus the output and the opportunity is worth it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I say if you can integrate AI to help you work faster, do it whenever you can
Yeah.
insert it in. But I like to start with something that is real and authentic to you, which is why I always say have your core content, that thing that you're known for, and then you can use AI to repurpose it. But I don't want to get off topic. Today,
No,
we're
no,
talking
no.
about scrappy marketing, and we're talking about how to integrate specialists into your internal team, whether you are running it as a founder or you have a small marketing department. So the first thing you talked about was storytelling. So let's get into that.
I think the first thing that actually is I wouldn't say dangerous, but you should be aware of being a founder, is that you get really close to your business. So it's really difficult to see yourself from the outside. So you think about things nobody else thinks about, and you think this is interesting enough. So that's why I always recommend to find someone, and it doesn't really have to be a big agency. I use sometimes film directors doing advertising, commercials or something like that, or maybe buy a couple of hours with an agency and have them brainstorm something for you. They don't have to finish everything. It's just have that outside in perspective. Or if you have someone in your network that's a creative guy that can help you, or girl, I mean, I just think you have to be aware that you don't see yourself like in this. You pretty fast get into this echo chamber, and you're really too close to your product that you can't see yourself from the outside, and you tell stories that are way too complicated for people. So it's really about seeing yourself from the outside and try to make it easy to understand, because people don't have, I don't know, 10 minutes to
Clarity.
understand your business.
Yeah. It's hard to have clarity around your own business because you're in it. You're in the muck. But someone from the outside can see you so much clearer.
Yeah.
Even as a marketer, we both have marketing backgrounds, and it's still really hard to market ourselves because we're in it. Like, why do you care about this thing that I do? It's hard to tell when
Yeah.
you're in it.
Yeah, and I think that's what one of the things that surprised me the most is I thought I was better than this, than being a marketeer, and then as soon as it's my own product or a book I wrote or something like that, then I'm just like any other clients.
Yeah.
So I would just say to everyone, you have to get someone from the outside to validate your ideas and see, is this really clear? Am I telling too many details? How do you really say this in an interesting way that people will, yeah, engage in?
Yeah.
So I think that's.
I
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's why I really love, like, having a business strategist where I could have a consulting call or a VIP day so I can work on one thing very deep, and then I can run with it because once I have that outside perspective, then it's so much easier to make the thing happen.
Yeah. I agree, and then I think one of the next thing is the whole storytelling. It's been easy to move on and put things on and buy social media campaigns and so on, but you can very easy spend a lot of money on something generic. So finding out and spread yourself thin of on a variety of platforms instead of actually
Mm,
working on something that's maybe just tell one story on one platform that's really good, and spend some time on creating quality content instead of trying to do a post every week or to follow some trends or something like that. Maybe I'm saying the opposite of what other people are saying, but for me it's really about creating maybe just one good thing every other month than try to post every day or something like that. So that's really.
I have a similar foundation. My lean marketing ecosystem is choose one channel
Yeah.
and only post there because you're just stretched too thin and you're not going to be able to create any sort of community if you're on every single channel, and create that one core content that you can keep referring back to, or that feeds the channel that you're going to. Like if you have a podcast like this,
Yeah.
then I could break this up into four different topics that I can talk about on social media, but it's a lot harder if you don't have some sort of platform to work from.
No, and I think that's where you create your core content. This
Mhm.
is here, and then you tease for it on other platforms. But that's fairly easy once you have your main content, right?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to do something new on all platforms, then you will, yeah, I think you will die in it because it's too complicated if you're just a small business, and you will end up doing less great work on all platforms, instead of just concentrating on one. So I think that would be my second thing to say. So get someone from the outside and help you tell, yeah, see yourself from the outside in, and then focus on one platform or one channel, to tell the story.
Mhm.
And then I think storytelling, like, figuring out why is this interesting. Even when we were at can I tell a story?
Yeah, of
I'll
course.
when we were at George Jensen, we didn't have a lot of. I mean, most of our sales were. It's a jewelry company and a home decoration company. It's an old silversmith founded in 1904, so it's really old. But basically, everything was sold in October, November, December. It's a Christmas thing. So we had a lot of time in the spring, and we didn't really know what to do. But luckily, we had the silversmith in the basement or on the ground floor where people really knew the craft. So they were hammering out beautiful silver balls, yeah, out of silver for 3 months or something like that. And then on our in the attic, we had an archive of old drawings from George Jensen, the founder himself, and other
That's so
designers and
cool.
so on. So what we did was just take an iPhone or a small camera and go up and try to look in the archive and find something that was really interesting, and then actually filming people talking to each other, say, could we do this again? Would it be fun to do this in, the anniversary of him turning 100 years old or 120 or something like that? Figuring out, could we do this? We never know if it's done. Finding old photographs and so on. So actually building a live documentary, but we didn't know where it would end because we just started, and then we were kind of like, we want to post something every week on how this is going and but we don't know where it's going to end. Maybe we have to give up somewhere. So as putting up these, what do you call it, obstacles for yourself. So asking, interviewing each other and say, yeah, but how are we going to do it? Do we even know? So make it difficult. And then just edit real simple and just do these 5 minutes episodes every week. And then we ended up going to the smithy and talking about, could we do this, doing a 3D model of it and so on. So, and I know this is a silversmithy, but you could still do it when you're working with a digital platform and something. They say, we want to do this. Talk about your challenges and so on. That's great storytelling. Talking about all the obstacles you have for figuring out how to do this. So you take people behind the scenes. I think a product that's really good at this is on iPad. There's this drawing app called Procreate, for instance. I don't have anything to do with those, but they're just really good at showing the studios and all the things they're working on and how they try to figure out a better way all the time, optimizing their product and so on. So do these behind the scenes, even though you're just two guys. Then interview each other and flip the phone around. You don't need big equipment, in my opinion.
You don't. And people love that authenticity in that. So, for anyone who's listening or watching, if you were a consultancy, for example, or a solo entrepreneur, this might feel like a lot, but really what you could do is, let's say you host a workshop once a quarter. You can do a behind the scenes on creating that workshop. You can do a post-mortem of that workshop. What worked, what didn't work. You can release the audio as a podcast for that workshop. You can do lots of different things. You can tell people how you came up with the ideas for your workshop, what's coming up next in the series. So you can do behind the scenes, even if it's just you. And your talk about the archives made me think you can go back in your own content archives and pull up old webinars that you've done, maybe even making fun of yourself. Like, look at how bad this audio was.
Yeah. And I think that's really, I mean, that's authentic content. So people will engage, and maybe you will scare someone off, and you will see your company will seem smaller than you actually. Some people want to boost their company and make it seem bigger, but in reality, I think most people want to deal with people. So if you show who you are and how you work and be, I mean, honest, I think you will be different from competitors, and people will choose you and not some company that seems bigger than it actually is.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of lying when you make your business seem bigger than it is, because if they're working with you 100% of the time, it's going to become pretty obvious that you're the only person there, and you're going to lose a bit of that trust if you try to make yourself out to be bigger than you actually are.
Yeah, but don't you? I've come across quite a few of these. He's just, it's a one guy company, and he's a founder and CEO, and he's talking about we and all the posts and so on.
I've seen that.
We've seen a lot of those, and I think it's just, I'm pro the other way around, where you say, I'm just one guy helping out, and then I have a network of people I bring in, but it's just a small business or something like that.
Yeah, be real. It's going, like, your lie will come out eventually.
Yeah.
And it's going to be real uncomfortable when they realize, oh, you're the assistant. That extra email address you have, that's you responding just from a different email.
That's also me. Yeah.
Also me.
And then, I think storytelling is find a way to find something that's engaging. by telling stories. And I think everybody has those when they start digging. Start telling if you're a really small company, start telling the founder story, how you got started and what inspired you, and yeah, maybe interview some clients on why they took a chance with you in the
I
first
love
place.
those.
And it's just really interesting to say, yeah, it was crazy that I trusted this guy, but it ended out fine or something like that. So
Yeah, customer stories and hearing the transformation that you've been able to bring someone else through, I always find that so interesting. Founder stories depends how crazy your story is if I'm interested in it or not.
and then, I mean, for those stories, I think you need some kind of editing tool to cut them up, so you don't, people start telling their names. That's really boring way to start an interview. Start with something crazy that's, from the end of the interview or something like that. Find that one thing they said that's really weird, and then cut it up in a different way. So, and
Yeah.
then they introduce themselves. Oh, that's who he is, or something like that. So
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I always like starting episodes with the craziest quote from the episode as the hook, and then we get into the interview. It's so much more fun, and it kind of sets the what's the word I'm looking for? It sets the standard, I guess, for the episode. Like, this is the vibe you're gonna get today.
yeah, but I mean, we all turn on these podcasts. I drive a lot from all our agencies, so I sit a lot in my car, and if the first 10 seconds are boring, or that I just don't get some kind of weird sentence that I want to jump into, then I'm probably skipping to something else, right? So try to find that weird quote, or that one thing where people say, I didn't know this was actually possible, and then you say, okay, but is it? Did he do it, or something like that? I think that's fun.
Yeah. I am with you on that, and I do that all the time. Like, I'll come across a podcast that I think is going to be fantastic, and then the first 10 minutes is some long origin story from a guest, and I'm like, "Wow, I just yawned so hard. I'm not sticking around
Oh,
for
and I
this."
started talking about the weather. I'm sorry for that. So, but hopefully I say something later on that you can use in the intro.
I'm gonna chop that right up. I'm actually releasing this as is for the video, but the podcast will be chopped up.
That's fine.
Only because people have been begging me lately to put the video up. Like, "Please, just put the
Yeah.
video up." But I'm gonna do it really lazy and just keep it as is.
Then I think I can't remember the number we got to, but maybe it's the fourth or the third thing or something like that. That's take some time to do this. I think a lot of people try to do, a little bit of the. I mean, it goes for everything. It's just not just marketing. Take a day to do a marketing ideas or something like that, instead of trying to do 20 minutes every day or something like that.
Yes, I am with you. Batching makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
I have my Monday morning marketing, which is the day that we're recording this, because I also do all of my interviews on Mondays. But it makes it so much easier that I know Monday morning I'm doing all of my marketing for the whole week, and I'm getting all of my podcast interviews done, and then I don't have to think about it again. I'm done.
Yeah. And it's just so much easier. I mean, also come up with ideas and so on. I mean, if you only have 10 or 20 minutes, then you never get past the obvious ones. So I think a rule of thumb to come up with great ideas is that you need around 100 bad ideas to get a great one. But the good thing is, it's really difficult to come up with 100 bad ideas in a row. Don't you? I mean, if you keep going
Yeah.
for 100, then you will come up with something that's actually okay, pretty good. So I think that's the beauty of bad ideas. It's really bad. So it's really difficult to come up with 100 in a row.
True. Yeah, I'm
So
a big workshopper. I like to just write down all of my ideas and then be like, "Nah, that sucks. That
yeah,
sucks. That one's good."
yeah. And then again, I think then for me, it's always been about collaborating. So if you have something, I mean, it's you're making it hard on yourself if you're sitting alone in your office and you try to write ideas. Maybe you can start that way and write some ideas up, but then you should have someone to bounce them off with. So I mean, then my bad idea will, when I say it to you, you will say, oh, and then you will make it slightly better, and I will say, oh, but what if we did this? And then if you bounce it up, then at one point it will actually be pretty good if we keep telling our bad ideas to each other. But if I sit at home and I just write these notes, it's so easy for my brain to kill them instantly,
Yeah.
and I don't work on them as well. So
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about with workshopping. Like having someone that you can throw your ideas out to, and they're like, you can, like, that's a baseline, and then you just work from it. It's almost like improv, like, yes, and.
yeah. But the thing is, I mean, you should be I'm not pro, big brainstorm sessions with a lot of people. That's not what I'm talking about. I've seen those go wrong so many times when people come into a room and they're not prepared, and they're sitting and expecting something to happen.
The
So so
magic.
yeah. So if you're not prepared and you have your 100 bad ideas or something like that that you can actually start throwing at each other, then it's dangerous. So it's something in between. I like the workshop idea where you're 2, 3, 4 people, but don't make it too big, because then someone will hide, and it's only the people who talk the loudest in the room who will get their idea through, and so on.
Yeah, I've seen that happen when we bring all stakeholders in, and then they want to deviate. So the first thing I do with all of my clients is I have this stakeholder interview where I interview, they answer the questions, but sometimes they'll want to deviate and start brainstorming on an idea. I'm like, no, let's
No,
circle back to this interview, because this is not the time to be doing that.
no, now we're in the opening phase of this, where we just bounce off ideas, and we're not allowed to judge, and we're not allowed to, work on it. And then later on, we can actually, what do you call it? Yeah,
Yeah,
distillate and then make it better. And so, yeah.
exactly. I always say marketing is a lab.
Yeah.
Test it out, test out different ideas, and you're just, you're coming up with this list
Yeah.
of bad ideas. They're your hypothesis, and you need to test it out to see if it's going to work, and you need to whittle down what doesn't work and what does, because you don't need to do a ton of things to gain traction. You just
No.
need to do like one thing consistently.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, and that one thing, that's you, instead of trying to be a lot of different things. And I mean, of course, it's also a bit scary to just say, okay, this is us, we can't do all of these things. But in the beginning, I think you really need to try to, yeah, narrow it down and say, this is the one story that we tell all the time. And I mean, everybody says this, but you have to get really tired of it yourself before people start noticing, right? That's I mean, sometimes I hate all the things that we're doing, because we're talking over and over and over about the same thing. But that's when people start noticing outside your organization. So consistency is also really, really important. I think that you
It's
just
so
keep
important.
telling the same story, the same angle on something. You can, of course, take different directions, but the core story, or the core, what do you say?
Probably the
Core
core
story.
strategy
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
it's going to feel boring to you if it's working. That's a good sign that you have effective marketing, is it feels boring to you because it's just so easy.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
how it gets when
yeah.
you've figured out that thing that works.
Yeah, and if you make a great headline that people love, then use it over and over and over again. I mean, it's not that complicated, actually. It's just, it's probably new people, or if people are really getting tired of it, then you are probably a success, right? Then your company is building, and
Yeah.
a lot of people are seeing what you do. So maybe if you get this huge success once, then you can change your direction. But I think I've seen way too many companies changing directions and logo and tone of voice all the time. So
Yeah, and
it's
then you're
really,
nobody. You don't have a personality if you're changing your brand all the time.
no.
You it's like you're a different person at every turn or every channel you're on, and You're not going to gain any trust that way. So to wrap it up, we have work with strategic partners so you can come up with really great ideas because you have someone to bounce ideas off of. You can't really see yourself clearly. Tell stories in your marketing, your own founder stories, but also customer stories and transformative stories. We have choose one channel and one core content because you don't need to do it all. It's really ineffective and will cost you way too much money. And the last one, 4 was what?
What was that? That was keep going. That was like the 100 ideas, the 100 bad ideas. So I think that's also when you start to do something. Yeah, that's the 4th one. That's
Yes.
Don't judge. Just keep going when you're developing something. Take a whole day to do marketing, even if you think it's too much or something like that. Maybe it's just once a month instead of dividing it into something you do on the side every week, weekday or something like that. So I think
Yeah,
that's
it depends on how much marketing you're creating. If you have something where you're hosting an event once a quarter, you certainly don't need to work on that every week. Well, you don't really need to do that.
No.
All right. Can you explain where everyone can find you with you?
So they can find me on LinkedIn. It's just my first name and last name. I'm the only one called that. I think that's the easiest way. If they ever get to this, now it's getting a bit dark here in Copenhagen. They can find my guidebook that I made while I was trying to do other stuff. So I have an illustrated guidebook of Copenhagen, which has nothing to do with what we talked about today, but it was just for the fun stuff. So, but try LinkedIn. That's the best way.
Thanks.